black, so.
No, it's still going on the live side though. Oh yeah, if it's down here, then
Yeah. So we are live right now on Facebook. Let me jump to our gallery view if Bodie's not ready. Sorry. How's everybody doing? Welcome to AV Tech Talks. We are here. It's the 4th of October. We're going to be talking about Zoom today. If Chris is ready, we're going to go over some of the house rules. Let me know when you're ready there, Chris.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm trying to find it.
Okay, no problem, man. I hope everybody's doing well. It was a nice day here in New York weather-wise. Hope everybody else is enjoying some decent weather. We have Jeff Widgren, I always mess it up for some reason, who's going to be leading us in our Zoom talk today. And as soon as Bodie's ready, I want to get our top of show going, and then we'll move on. We've got a pretty full panel today. It's very exciting.
Okay.
And great. So
Good.
let me kick it over to Chris.
Okay, so give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
Go ahead and kick it over though, because I can't see it now that it's brought up. But it's fine. This is our normal house rules, guys. We are here.
Well,
I wanted
actually, Chris, we're looking at your gallery view right now.
Shouldn't be. Why is it not taking it? That's the thing.
I don't know.
Not taking it. Can you see it
There
now?
now we got it. There
Okay.
you go.
It wasn't taking it. I apologize, everybody. So welcome again. Obviously, AV Educate, we always got to have some kind of bugs. It wouldn't be a show if we didn't have fun, right? So we try to show you how not to screw up when you do your shows, basically, is what we're doing. But anyway, I digress on this. Thank you guys for being here. Again, we got a great Zoom show for you guys tonight. House rules. I wanted to change the slide and mess with Omar a little bit, but it's okay. We are Sundays as of right now. It will go back to Mondays, presumably in the near future, unless we're enjoying the Sunday talks. But it's every Sunday as of right now at 7 o'clock. If you want to join the Zoom, just go ahead and text that link. We'll get you a Zoom. We'll get you involved in the emailing to get you in here. As you'll see coming up here, we have a couple different panelists that normally aren't here, guys. So yeah. Due to the nature of streaming, there's always a little bit of a delay with Zoom. Sorry for the kids in the background. I do have 3 boys that are kind of loud, so I do apologize if you can hear them. But due to the nature of streaming, it's not always instant. So if you have something that you've put out there, give it a minute. We'll get to it. We are capturing everything. Be the sharpshooter in the room, as Omar likes to say. Just remember, we're not always the smartest, but we do try to help you out as much as possible. We do not know everything, as we've always said before. We try to act like we know everything sometimes. No, I'm kidding. No, we definitely try to get you as much information as possible. We're only as good as the people that bring us the information. So if you have something that we don't know how to use, we'll try to integrate it in the next slide. Again, this is a Q&A session. So this is we introduce, we ask questions, we do things like that. And of course, shameless plug, as you've seen in the beginning new intro video, we've got Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Follow them all so you can get connected with us. Tonight's presenters are Jeff. I don't want to butcher your last name. Widgren. Did I say that right?
Widgren, yeah. Not
okay,
too far
Widgren.
off.
Okay, he is a Zoom instructor. He is part of the Stream Sharks. Is that correct? Stream Sharks.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's what. Okay, so he's going to be kind of going through all the new Zoom updates and everything like that, and he's also here with Vince Donovan, Director of Safety Solutions and Training all the way from the UK. So again, another late night guest for us. We appreciate you guys taking the time out of your days to be here and help us with this. Jeff, we already know that you're helping us on the back end. We're working with you in some, what are we calling it? Zoom test kitchen. So some of you guys have been involved in that, so we appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Ed if he's got anything else. If not, we can bring it back to our esteemed mind behind it all here who put everything together, Omar.
Great. Thanks, Chris, for that. So first of all, if everybody I just want to make sure, because in my monitoring, I'm not hearing some of the Facebook. So just if anybody in Facebook land, let us know if you can hear us. I think if any of you guys are monitoring in the panel, let me know. For some reason, I can't hear Facebook. But yes, cool. Thanks for the thumbs up there, Jason. So before I kick it over to Jeff, I just want to see show of hands in our panel. How many of you have ever used Zoom? That should be everyone's hand because we're on Zoom right now. I hope, how many of you guys are, I'm assuming some of you guys are doing actual events where you're using Zoom as the means to bring in your talent, presenters. And I'm sure some of them are very clunky because you get all different types of skill levels. Is there anything in the panel, if anybody has like one thing that has tripped them up in Zoom lately, that might be something I'd be interested in. If someone has something they can share quickly, I'll take a show of a hand if anyone's got something. It almost looks like Jeff Keighley smiled, or Keithley, sorry.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a hang up this weekend. I've been working with a client overseas, and it was very interesting dealing with audio and video mishaps, I guess you would call it. It's a good word for it. We use an NDI scan converter and NDI virtual inputs into a cloud infrastructure with 24 different Zoom machines tied together into a master switcher. It was quite a nightmare because it was the ability of getting a single person. That was what it all came down to. The kind of people they're dealing with don't have the capabilities of doing SRT or WebRTC standard workflows, but everybody can use Zoom. And so that's what we ended up having to go down to, or whichever way you look at it, go across to. And as we were working through it, there was definitely some challenges. Definitely some challenges. I'm looking forward to newer versions.
Looks like Omar has something to say.
So mine wasn't as complicated as that one. Ironically, that's a way Zoom specific topic. Mine was, we were having doctors who knew how to use Zoom, but not how to get into the Zoom rooms. So we had to have a person who came in as like a secretary who was calling the doctors doing a FaceTime to show them the process to get into the Zoom to set it up the way they need to be set up for the end side, for the live side. So that's a problem we've been running into a lot. So it's like Zoom is easy to use once you get into it, but apparently getting into it for some is not as easy as we think it is, at least on our end.
Right. We take that for granted that we understand it. So it sounded like they needed someone who acted almost like a speaker ready for Zoom. Yeah.
Yes, 100% correct. Yep.
Yeah. I work with a webcasting company, and they use Zoom and OBS. And one of the things I constantly tell people is I basically do a speaker ready job with a tiny bit of streaming, because that's mostly the prep work of getting the presenters okay, making sure they turn off their notifications, which they always lie to me and tell me that they're off and they're not, things like that. So I totally understand. But great. I'm glad people have had these experiences. And now Jeff is going to give us a good demo on some of the new features of Zoom and maybe how to avoid some hangups that we've had. I don't think he's going to teach us how to make our talent learn how to use Zoom really fast, but maybe what you can do is send them this talk ahead of time and they can pick up everything they need to know. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jeff and take it away.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate that. And Omar, I thank you guys for the invitation here to AV Educate Tech Talks and the opportunity to share. And you are entrusting me to the audience, and you've never seen me in this role before, so it could be a huge surprise. But I actually, tonight's a great night because I'm back doing what I did for years, teaching and being in front of thousands of people, and over about a 3-year period, I think it was about 15,000 folks or so, front of classroom though. And I will say, being in front of a lens is not my gig. And I'm not alone. I mean, teachers and everybody are really getting thrown in front of cameras, and quite honestly, it's part of the hardest piece of it is, how to contact. And I know when I look back at my stuff, I've got shifty eyes and stuff like that. I kind of don't like looking at it, but needless to say, thanks for the opportunity, and everybody who's here on the panel and on the internet stream. Thanks for taking the time to come join in and learn a little, and certainly all of us, myself included, we don't know it all. There's no question. This stuff changes too much, anyways. And I know Bodie and I were chatting a little bit earlier, and the even the documentation, like release notes, what's new. it's just not even complete at times. And I know Ed and I were up last night finding things that were kind of brand new to us, kind of this last .1 version, and so they were a little bit surprising at that. So, anyways, I know it's been mentioned, but post questions in the chat, and feel free, and we'll have somebody here manage those and get to them, and just have some fun. Don't be shy, okay? So, yeah, my name's Jeff. I started, I was one of, all too many who were impacted by the whole COVID year here. And although I've been involved in live streaming for almost 10 years now, it was a volunteer basis. It was church. It was, if not frequently, it wasn't even every week. They do just their bigger meetings and so forth. And so the experience was there. It was just it was a casual approach. Loved it, but never did I imagine that I would dedicate myself to it. But I come from the IT space and the data center technologies, and with this, we've got several months behind me of just pure dedicated investment of delivering these live events, and right now live virtual events at that. So it's been a blast, and I love what we're doing. Zoom is a huge part of it. For some folks, it's perfect. For some folks, it's a piece of the pie. It's one of the ingredients to the final delivery. But you can see I've got my emails up there, my phone numbers up there. Feel free, stay in touch. I'm easily contactable, and would love to get to know you sometime. So tonight, if I've fed you well and the panel has gotten your appetite going with some good Q&A and so forth, after we're finished here tonight, after our Q&A, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Zoom test kitchen, and the meeting number's there, the password is there. Feel free to join us. And the Zoom test kitchen is this. I think there's always, or often, this opportunity and desire to test a feature. What is multi-pinning, multi-spotlighting, some of the new features, breakout rooms and so forth, feel like? How does it work? What's it like for me, the admin? What's it like for them, the attendees? And the hardest part of that, at times, is just getting a few folks together and being in a Zoom meeting all at the same time. So it's a much more realistic. Some of these features don't kick off till there's 3+ people in the Zoom room. And how many times I've sat right here at my desk, and I can fire up 4 connections on the fly and look at about every angle of myself off of the 4 different cameras. Not a lot of fun. There's no brain power there. It's just mine. And so the Zoom Test Kitchen brings together that brain power, some people who will help you get through your tests. You can come in and say, hey, Jeff, I want to do this. We'll let you try that. It's an open forum. I am adding a few topics each time we open up the Zoom Kitchen, and that is just some 2 or 3 focuses that we'll have there, whether it's at the beginning, middle, or end, and always the freedom for you to be able to come in and execute on a test or experience that you'd like to learn about as well. So some quick announcements, just I think some a big announcement. It's not an announcement, it's a date that's come and gone now. On September 27th, the Zoom absolutely requires passwords and or waiting rooms to be implemented on every single meeting. And if you have meetings that were recurring and previously in your calendars and so forth, if you don't go and change them, they'll apply a waiting room to it, and everybody will end up in the waiting room until they get let in. But that was a biggie, in that sense. And we know it's still in alignment with their responses, which I think they've done quite well on their security, some of the security issues they've dealt with earlier this year. the latest version right now, if you're in Zoom and you click up on the top right on your profile picture and tell it to check for updates, you can see, or you can go into the statistics page on the green icon in the top left, I believe, and with that, you can see what version you're on, or have it check for an update and see what version you're on. But the latest update is 5.3.1. 5.3.1 got released just several days ago was all. And .1 came pretty quickly. Usually when that happens after 5.3, it's a bit of a hot fix. They're not going to have new features, but they fixed something that they missed. And so I just want to make sure that everybody's there. And I'll say, like 5.2 is a pretty significant threshold of features. Like if your attendees don't have 5.2, they're not going to see what you're trying to deliver, whether it's, breakout rooms or customizable galleries, multi-spotlights, multi-pens on your system and so forth. They just won't experience it. And so you'll have maybe some undesired results. And it's not that things, blow up and so forth, but you end up with people that you thought were going to get distributed out to, let's say, breakout rooms, and they're just standing in the main room, and it's all about their version that they're on, and or sometimes their device as well, on how they joined that Zoom meeting in particular. Just a description. There's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of choices out there, and for every meeting / event, there's a purpose behind that meeting or event. And to understand that purpose is really essential, to understanding or making the right selection for the right tool. And Zoom fills one of those. Since when, have I in my career heard somebody claim that this is a do-all, forever type deal? Absolutely. But there hasn't really ever been one since, and hasn't been one in the past. It's just not the end all solution for everything. Right. And for instance, a couple of weeks ago, had this church who had not gotten on board with streaming every week during the COVID times, but now that they have a bit of a mix, they have some people staying home naturally, a high risk and so forth. Some people are allowed in certain numbers to come to their worship services and so forth. But now that they had some people that were going to maybe feel left out, they all of a sudden felt driven to stream it out there and make it available. And so they chose Zoom. And I'll just quickly say they chose to add 20 cameras into 20 people's homes for absolutely no reason, because church delivers. They don't bring you in. They weren't part of the service. And so, just thinking about, is it the right tool for the job? Will it do the whole job, or will it actually, in fact, do the wrong job? And so just be aware of those things. Some challenges on the bottom right of this slide in particular is, some high-end productions. And we'll give you an example of that later. But, a high-end production, you don't see Zoom. You don't feel Zoom. And one of the big requirements on some high-end productions is the video resolution and the audio quality and so forth. And, there's some challenges there, especially with, producers and customers with those high-level expectations and so forth. Some of them think we can just flip a switch and Zoom will just jump up there. We've got, Greg Gibson is actually on the panel, and I know for sure Greg's been kind of banging his head up against the wall for the last few weeks, trying to get some improvement on resolution. And so that can be a challenge there. It's great though. It's preferred, it's one of the most preferred platforms out there. I'll say they're leaps and bounds ahead of just about everybody else out there with similar competitive platforms as far as their development and so forth. But it's called Zoom Meeting for a reason. Now, tonight we're not talking about Zoom Webinar, but it's called Zoom Meeting for a reason. It's meant to be, 90% of the time, an interactive tool for those that are there. It's easy. it really is pretty easy at the end of the day for the users and even the admins once they spend a little bit of time on it. And it works on about any device that's out there, from browsers to mobile devices to desktops, to their own client software that installs and makes it even better. What comes along with that are sometimes some inconsistencies based on how that attendee joined the meeting as well. But it's very inclusive. It lets about anybody join on any device they may have. There's a free version that you can use, so everybody can create an account and they can host. They can host meetings, unlimited meetings. I think it's up to 100 people, and if it's just a one-on-one, just me and just you on that Zoom meeting, it's unlimited time. Maybe they cut us off. I don't know technically if it's a 24-hour cutoff or not. It might be, but then once you get that third person or more, then the free account it will go ahead and cut you off at 40 minutes. But even when you start paying for it as an individual, it's pretty darn affordable. And as an organization, where it might feel a little rich for an individual, it's not at all cost prohibitive in almost all cases for organizations who have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for high-end conference room systems and so forth in the past. So here, in fact, are some kind of a breakdown of the Zoom plan options, if you will. And there's an annual plan. They represent it annually and they represent it monthly. And the reason I go over this is I'm not going to go feature for feature or anything like that. But the fact is there's the free, and then there's like $150 a year or $15 a month, $200 a year or $20 a month, or $200 a year and $20 a month. And I go, hats off to their marketing people, right? I mean, it's, and then the smallest font, literally, right? The smallest font that steps its way down on this one and down on this one, that is your multiplier. So you take, 199 times the number, and I don't know if you can see it online or not. I can't see it even on my screen. It's a little small, but that is 199.90 times. That would be the cost of one host per year times a 10 host minimum. And then what looks to be the same price for enterprise is actually a 100 host minimum. And so that's $199.90 times 100 is going to be your annual buy-in there, or your monthly buy-in down below. So just kind of a breakdown, be aware of how they're, adding some attractiveness on the marketing side. I get that. But the reality of it is it can get you if you're not careful, I guess. Usually you can find out while you're signing up. I did it on the business side one day, and I said, I should have read closer. So anyways, hey, I did put some references on the bottom of the slide as far as like resolution references, 360p, 720p, 1080p. The reality of that little marker on the right side there that says resolution reality is if everything was normal for Zoom, we would in the pro plan get 720p up and down, business 1080 and so forth. Well, everything's not normal for Zoom right now, and that is, they've been having to support this massive growth in a very short amount of time, and while they're loading hardware and provisioning solutions and so forth, they have to stay in business and grow and scale and increase their revenues because they're a public company in the meantime. And so the way they do that is relieve as much load on their system as possible, improve their code for sure, to dynamically manage the video resolution, dynamically manage the audio resolution and so forth, to have, the least impact for an acceptable delivery. And then you hit people like me, who I am a producer. Greg Gibson is a producer. There's others here on the panel as well that we do productions, and all of a sudden that lowest acceptable is not even close to acceptable, and so we have to either work around it or work with them to try to get things bumped up. So just be aware, the reality of the resolution isn't a reality right now, and I don't know when that will actually improve itself for sure. So with that, the customizable gallery.
Real
Let's
quick,
get
Jeff,
into some. Yeah.
I want to say also, for those of you that are looking at the resolutions of 360, 720, and 1080, you also got to understand where you're putting your Zoom output to. Again, this goes back to Streaming 101. I think it was one of the first tech talks we did that we talked about your platforms cap you at a certain limit depending on what you're able to stream at. So if you're streaming to Facebook and you have under a certain amount of followers, you're only going to be able to stream at 720. So even though you're paying for that professional plan, understand that your quality is only as good as the platform will allow you to be at. So just always remember that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Thanks for that additional color. So true. So one of the, I don't know, it's been long standing, forever. Who hasn't thought that 9-piece puzzle or 49-piece puzzle of a gallery should always have been a slide puzzle, like when some of us older folks were growing up. That was our source of entertainment while we were on a road trip. But it hasn't been until just recently that the gallery in fact is customizable. You can drag and drop it like a puzzle and make it happen and so forth. And so with that, the host can rearrange it, and the with that they can also, this is, it's a feature that's kind of near webinar, which is more of a I'm in control and I'm going to push what you see, but it's still a Zoom meeting, and that is I can shuffle around the gallery the way I wish, either completely or just partially. Like a few days ago, I was a tech on a Zoom. That's all I was asked to do, is just be a tech on a Zoom and manage it, and not terribly complicated, but they had one speaker and then everybody else was attendees, kind of the mute, unmute, things like that. But my main thing was drag and drop the speaker on my gallery top left and then push it out. And so the experience visually, and then I'll show you on a live screen here in a second as well. But here it says, in the unshuffled mode, before I move a single tile as the host, before you move a single tile, although the follow the host mode is in this top right corner, when you click on the view button, it won't be there unless you've moved at least one tile. And then once you've done that, then you can see the follow the host's video order, and then the ability to release that video order as well. And when you do that, it pushes out and reorders everybody's gallery. Now, a real quick question that most people will ask, well, what if they're not in their own gallery view? Well, they're always kind of, right? It's either a side-by-side strip or across the top strip of pictures. If there's a share, it will take the biggest portion of the screen, and or they're in the gallery view and they'll see things change up and so forth. So needless to say, it is a push and it's a hold at that point as well. At times, there's a note down here that as a host, I especially in the webinar world, as a host, we have panelists come in. It might be triggered because of green room requirements and people getting queued up into the system before they're actually going out on stage. But we currently have people on stage. And so they come in and they're either afraid, or we've asked them not to turn on their cameras. And so with that, there's a lot more flexibility now, quite honestly, with maybe a creative use of breakout rooms, custom galleries, and then that other feature of do not show non-video users. So now let me cycle back. Customize gallery only in Zoom meetings. If I shuffle them and put them in an order that I desire and then push them, At that point, then I can hide, if I desire, non-video users, and all those kind of black name blocks will go away. And so it's a cleaner look. Sometimes it's quite desirable if you're publishing that, and pushing it out there and so forth. If I did that the other way around, if I were to hide non-video users first, it will not let me shuffle around gallery squares. So just a friendly little tip on that one is all. So anyways, let me in fact share my first screen. You guys confirm with me on the panel, since you can see me sooner than the stream itself. You've got my desktop and the gallery view. Guys, everybody on the panel, if you'll bring up at least a version, if not the big gallery on your desktops. And so I'm going to show everybody watching what I'm doing first, but then we'll switch to somebody whoever wants to volunteer. I'll spotlight you so that we can see your gallery view, and then I'll just talk through the changes I'm making. So they won't see it, but they'll see your desktop change on the fly. That'll be about the best demo we can come up with, I think. So,
hey Jeff, do you need me to make you a host real quick?
What's that?
Do you need me to make you a host real quick so you can show this?
I do. Yeah.
Because right now we're following my order. So just so everybody's
Correct.
aware, I kind of drive the show typically, and I give everybody my view. So I put everybody in a view that I like, and I've done that already. So now when I make Jeff host, it might reshuffle our order, so you guys might see that on screen, just to let you know what's happening. So I've just given Jeff host abilities, so he should be able to shuffle around, hit the deck for everybody.
Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna put me in there real quick so people can see me talking to you. But while I do that, so you see my gallery as now been given the host. I can now drag and place where I want Ed. And so I'll say, well, Omar is actually the boss, so he's going to go in the top left. We're going to put Ed, I don't know, number 2, and myself. I'm going to trump Bodie for a moment, and then take heat later. I don't even hardly know the guy yet, but making friends or enemies, I guess.
Just getting freaking demoted left and right.
I know, right? I know. Don't ever invite this guy back. So we've just messed with the top row, right? And everybody on the panel, they're watching on your behalf at the moment. Now that I've made that change,
hey Jeff,
it kept your order when you passed. Even that's a good find. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how we got 2 Stone Cold Steve Austins in that third row. Right in the middle. How did we get 2 guys who look like Stone Cold?
No doubt.
That's amazing.
Here, we'll fix that. We'll cool them down. We'll cool them down and put till. Is it Nina or Nina?
It's Nina.
All right.
We'll now we have the purchase column.
We'll separate them. So look, I didn't check, and I should have checked first. Is the follow host video order was already checked? So the panelists, you agree with head nods. You were probably seeing on your desktops while I was dragging and dropping, and I didn't realize that. But I did release it, and so at this point, you're back to the way it was. Well, I don't remember. Mine looks different now. I guess maybe it's just a dynamic reassignment. But at this point, it is where it is. So the speaker right now will be number 1. Omar will be number 2. I'll hit view. Now I can see the follow host video order. Select that, and they've all seen that change take place. Now, Omar, do you want to share your screen? And I will. I am going to spotlight you. And if you'll share your desktop, is that doable?
Yeah. What do you want me to share for my desktop? I'm sorry.
The gallery.
Your gallery view.
So it says I cannot share screen while the other participant is sharing. So one of us has to stop sharing real quick.
Go ahead.
All right. So here's my gallery view on my side.
Oh, you know what,
See a
Jeff?
browser.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, I got dual monitor on. Hold on, give me a second.
Gotcha.
Well, there's also, we should talk about, we'll see. Let's see if this works for him first, and then I may have to do it.
So now we see my gallery view, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. We've got your gallery.
All right.
And so where you could have on your own desktop actually made some adjustments yourself without me kind of trumping you, go ahead and what I want to show is go ahead and try to do that now.
Because I'm spotlighted.
Yeah. One partly did it say because you're spotlighted. So if we unspot, I hadn't tested that one out on the spotlighted, but if you weren't spotlighted, the dialogue would be about the same size, but it would tell you that you can't do that while you're following the host's order either. And so it locks you in. You can still change your view from gallery to active speaker and so forth. But to reshuffle in the meantime is not an option for you. All right.
One of the things you could do if you were using a dual monitor setup is you could pin to your second screen. So you could choose to pin someone else to your second screen, even in that view. But that's about the only change you can really make besides on your main screen, switching between speaker and gallery view.
Yeah. You guys had my presentation.
Just an interesting note for everybody who's watching on the Facebook side, I had opened up some of the highlight boxes for them to see, and it's not showing it on the Zoom, on Facebook side, which is interesting. But for the guys who are missing it, that panel that Jeff showed in the PowerPoint that described what was there is pretty much just as I was clicking on to show you. So like, yeah, the option of what Ed was saying here, which is, pin the first screen, pin the second screen. You can also lock those in. And then I will add, just in case we didn't mention at the beginning, you need to have the latest version of Zoom to do a lot of these functions right now. So if you have a prior version and I forget what version number it is, but if you have a prior number to that, you cannot do a lot of these functions.
That's correct. Yeah, like 5.2.2 is a pretty big version, pretty significant version, and I think 5.3 even became more significant at that with without having unintended or people not being able to participate in what you're trying to actually deliver and customize. With that, my PowerPoint back up for you guys on the panel.
It is for me, but I have dual monitor going on. So
Yeah, back up.
Great.
All right, very good. All right, so moving on that, and when we, if you join us in the Zoom kitchen, if you've got that Zoom test kitchen time tonight after we're done, we can make you an absolute participant and experience that live as well. It's I felt really compelled to get this slide up there. It's just a text-based, really not a very exciting slide, quite honestly, but it is one of the most popular forum posts out there. I'm a co-host. Why can't I? And it just, that's the title of the slide. Co-host does not equal host privileges, and you can only have one host per meeting. I've seen that discussion as well. You can't have two hosts per meeting. You can assign an alternate host that just in case you get in a car accident or get ill or just simply can't make it. If you have an assigned alternate host, they can start the meeting. But a co-host, they can only become a co-host once the meeting starts and the host is there and the host gives you co-host. But even when you are a co-host, you can't start closed captioning, live streaming. You can't end the meeting for everybody. You can't assign other co-hosts. You can't do poll management. I found that out tonight. And you can't start breakout rooms and move people around like the host can. Host can, make all the assignments, open the breakout rooms, close the breakout rooms, run. they can bounce around from room to room, and co-hosts can bounce around, but there's one piece of this I need to test, but they can bounce around, but only if they've been pre-assigned to a room at the start of it, can then co-host move around other rooms as well. I'm thinking that what about those self-select breakout rooms that are now available, if that actually still holds true. And I would guess that it probably doesn't, but just a note on that. So breakout rooms, a few guidelines here, up to 50 separate rooms can be created. It can be done. Really, not every single thing can be auto. Well, it can actually. Even the naming creation of them, it'll just do room 1, room 2, room 3 by name. But you can also change and customize the names. I see some folks in the producing world that will, create one breakout room. Green room, right? And that's where they want people to go hang out, because when you're in a breakout room, you've got your own video, your own audio, you can all talk, you can share if given those privileges, and the whole bit. You can have a whole separate session, and like a have a vendor presentation, whatever the case may be. They're quite flexible and quite useful. So with that, the main room, recording's a biggie as well. With all that is going on, in a Zoom meeting and breakout rooms and movement, if I were the recorder, the DVR, if you will, and I've been told to record, my first question would be, record what? The main room, breakout room 1, breakout room 10, and record what? And so the cloud-based recorder, if that is turned on, will only and ever record the main room, the main meeting. If you want to or need to record breakout sessions, then you need to assign somebody. Either ask a co-host to go in that room and be there, and or give participants the privileges to record, and they can locally record to their computers. Now, then you have to coordinate if you need those files or those recordings on getting them. But that's the going solution these days. So there's three primary ways. Assign automatically, which we mentioned. Assign manually. So if I have I didn't count the number of folks that are on the panel tonight, but let's just say you got 24 people on in the meeting, and you want to assign them automatically. It'll divvy them up and distribute them with no real purpose behind, names or alphabetical or anything like that. It'll just divvy them up and away they go. Manually is exactly that. Create the room names, how many rooms, assign him to there and her to there and so forth. And you pick and choose and you move them, and then you open the door and away they go. And now the latest feature is, I'll open the door. I'll say, hey, the breakout rooms are now open. And then every attendee can just hit the breakout room button that shows up on the bottom of your Zoom client and select the breakout room that you want to go attend. And so those are the three primary methods. Now, the host has the ability to say, hey, when you're there, you can move to any room you want whenever you want. You can come back to the main room whenever you want. Or we can not offer that flexibility, and then we can beckon you home, if you will, back to the main room itself. We can send a global message out there. We can tell it to, get it all sent there. It'll send it with a countdown timer that I can tell it how much time, and the room will see the message with a timer. And the timer it will automatically. Now, you can go ahead and go back to the main once you're warned, if you will. But if you don't go, it'll get you there once the time expires as well. All right. So one of the I think cool features, I haven't seen a whole lot of people use it yet, but for the exclusive use of Zoom as the only tool to present, and that is minus any additional, vMix or OBS or Wirecast or any other production switching tool, which you can include hardware-based switching as well. Absent that, this is cool because I can actually put my camera on top of a virtual background, which we've heard about for a little while and experienced those, but the PowerPoint presentation is actually the virtual background. And it was a pretty cool implementation. So I'm going to share again here my screen. And is somebody managing my spotlight?
Yeah, but we are seeing your desktop at the moment.
Yeah. That is where I am at the moment. I'm going to bring up the share. And can you see the dialogue? I want to make sure people see what I'm walking through.
Yep.
So I clicked on share here under the basic. We've looked at a lot. All the individual apps that are open, the desktops that are available, whiteboard, and so forth. But under advanced is this option PowerPoint as a virtual background, and it is in beta. It's not a fully fully baked. I haven't had any particular issues, but I don't know what features they're holding back right now either that I'm not seeing, but they're getting it vetted out. But it so far it's worked well. So I select the that it pops up, what PowerPoint do you want to open, and so I'll select that. And the way we go, it opens up the PowerPoint slide itself and I missed something. I found out this early. I need to make sure that my vMix is in fact outputting my camera because that's where it's getting it. And then I will end up with my camera feed on top. That then becomes movable. You can put it anywhere you want. You can size it as well. It would be at large or small. And so my point being is now that I know that I can present and deliver in this method, I can build my slides to accommodate it to a certain degree. And so this was just an example. I just got a nice graphic, looks a bit like a virtual room. And with that, it lets me place myself there and be there accordingly. So I don't know if the scale looks good to everybody. It looks okay to me. I might be a little bit larger or whatnot, but anyways, not such a big bad deal there. This is just for the sake of loading it and so forth. I just took it down to one simple slide, and it does always start at the beginning. That was one of my big motivators. Is this was probably like slide 15 or whatever, and I realized every time sorry about that, every time I opened it up to do this, I was on 15 and it started at the beginning. And so I said, for the sake of presentation, I'm going to take this to a one slide deck. And so I made a copy, deleted all the other slides so it would kind of speed up this process. But anyways, version 5.2 being required, like I said, it is in beta. If you want to disable this feature, it actually explicitly says you have to contact support and ask them to disable it as a choice. And but you can turn the camera on and off. This little ellipses down here by the next slide button. You can actually tell it to resize, which is also as simple as just clicking on yourself that is there, but also split video from PowerPoint. It threw me back into the gallery. I can see myself in my gallery strip right now and out of the overlay. So maybe you bring up a slide or whatnot that just for some reason couldn't accommodate, and look okay with you being overlaid. You could temporarily turn it off and then turn it back on and so forth.
Hey, Jeff, actually,
I did hear that there's some live streaming limitations with the camera overlay as well. The PowerPoint will go, but the camera overlay on a live stream that's being streamed from Zoom's streaming features, it doesn't get them both out there. Sorry, Ed, what you were up for?
Oh, I was just going to say, if you don't mind, I'm going to transition to the gallery view. Do you mind just turning that back on and off so that people can see in the gallery right now, we have your normal your room background, but if you do that PowerPoint share again, so they can see as you, and maybe move yourself around for a second. So he can actually, if you can see that tile, you're seeing that right here, his background is moving within his frame, so he can kind of frame himself up in gallery view. But on screen, if I transition back, it's looking like that, and he is, placing himself in the PowerPoint. So just so that they could see what the opposite view of that was going to look like, Jeff.
Yeah, cool. No, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Very good.
And then Jeff, could we take a moment, because we have a handful of questions that have piled up. Do you mind if we take a couple questions for a minute?
Yeah, let's do it. I would love a little bit of break just to have the panel help out with some discussion, or myself, and definitely respond to some questions we've got.
Great, we got some lined up. Someone, actually, I'm going to take this moment to ask our question, and then maybe Omar, you can queue up the next one. The image quality of your Zoom call is amazing. I'd love to know how you achieved that. I think it was mentioned in the chat. We have access to a Zoom Room account, which allows us to have a higher quality of video for all the participants. So that's something we worked on to get the image quality up in the back end. Some of you guys may or may not know. And actually, I'm going to switch over here. Sorry, 1 second. I use OBS to actually capture the Zoom. So since I'm bumping the quality up, it's bumping the quality out to Facebook for you guys. But I also would love to take a moment, if you don't mind, guys, to thank the DVE store for their continued support. Their support was one of the things that helped us get some HD quality, so we appreciate them. You can visit them at www.dvestore.com. Digital video equipment is what DVE stands for, so they have all your video equipment needs. Guy Cochran and his team are fantastic, so please visit them and let them know that you heard about them from AV Tech Talks, and we'd appreciate that, and I'm sure they would too.
Yeah, if you ever want to feel powerful when you walk in a room, show up to a Zoom meeting using your Zoom room, and everybody's world will get sharper and cleaner and increase. There's certain subscriptions and certain purchases that can be invested in at Zoom that your mere presence in someone else's meeting that wouldn't by itself have that higher resolution will actually upgrade the whole meeting. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's you showed that slide with the different qualities, and that was something that was that's interesting. Some things are there, some aren't, and then once you play with it, it gets took me a minute to figure out what was going on with the statistics. So when you look at the statistics of Zoom, how does that all play into effect? And Zoom does some really dynamic things with quality it, depending on how big your window on your own screen is, can determine what quality you're outputting. So it's pretty interesting. It gets kind of complicated. Yeah. And maybe one day we can, in the Zoom test kitchen, we can look at that and explain it to some people.
Yeah.
So let's see. It looks like Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about breakouts. You mentioned I don't have 5.3, so I couldn't do the cell select. That's new to me. But you mentioned that you could just tell people.
Sorry, 1 sec. Jeff, do you mind stop and share for a minute?
There we go.
Great, thank you.
You mentioned scenario where you said, okay, everyone go pick your breakout. Is there a setting where as host you can open up the breakout rooms, or as soon as you launch the meeting, can people select and go into a breakout room?
Yeah, so I let me see if let me share my monitor one in response to that. You guys, are you looking at yourself, Dave? Did that pop up?
Yes, I see myself.
Okay. Yeah, kind of weird, but it means it's working. so you see that view, and I can switch that to gallery. It looks it's a little friendlier instead of staring just at yourself. But I have this as the am I hosting it? Yeah, I'm host. So I have this breakout rooms button here, and so when I bring this up, and let me zoom in here. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's trying to get the magnifier going.
Okay. I see what the bottom.
But anyways, I can't.
option
I'm
is
not
there.
having much, but yeah. How many breakout rooms do I want to create? Do I want to leverage the assign automatically option, the assign manually option, or let participants choose? And so I think closer to your question is I'll go let participants choose. I'll say go ahead and create. So it's all up to me. I have to kind of like building a poll. You have to type the question, type the answers, and so forth. And so room 1 is there. Let's say I rename that to green room. And then I can add another room. I'll just go room 2, room 3, room 4. Before I do anything on like recreate, and a recreate is if you had you open the gates to breakout rooms, everybody's been there, they all came back for like a 15-minute main room deal, and then they released them again. Instead of having to tear it down and put it back together, you can just click on recreate, and it takes out their previous assignments or locations, and so they don't get thrown back into where they were before. But before I open all rooms, I want to make sure that you look at the options, and that is allow participants to choose the room. That is what I want to do in this example. Allow participants to return to the main session anytime they want to, not just when the host beckons them back. Automatically move all assigned participants into breakout rooms. So that in itself is going to require me to make all the assignments, right? And if I don't make all the assignments, if I have any leftovers, if you will, and that might be by design. If you want, you create 20 breakout rooms, but you really have enough people, or you have a purpose to actually have 21. You don't have to create the 21st room. You can actually just don't assign those people for that 21st room, and they'll all stay right there in the main room. And so everybody else will get pushed out. Those will stay, and you can meet with them or whatever, the deal is. Breakout rooms close automatically. So I think about, I do virtual events. I think about vendors, right? So they're sponsoring vendors who have paid for speaking engagements, they're doing product introductions, whatever the case may be. They've paid for, let's say, 40 minutes of your attendees' time. And so it really easy. I don't have to go beckon everybody back. I can just say, when I send you, this is a 40-minute session, 20 different rooms. I'll see you when you get back, and the system will manage it 100% for you. And then you can tell it whether to put that countdown timer on display when they get called back or not. And then you can set the countdown timer 10, 15, 30, 60, or 120 seconds. And so those are those options. So if I dare I do it, Ed, is there any reason that I shouldn't?
Sorry, what do you want to share? I'm sorry.
If I go ahead and just make some assignments.
Yeah, just leave the encoder alone, like we talked about.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna bounce some of you. I'm not gonna do that one out there. Make those assignments. I'm gonna go back and add some more because you fall off the list, and well, let's try to have some rhyme or reason behind it, just being numbers for now. And now it's a go. It's ready to go. And I'm going to say open all rooms. and let's see, my option, allow, I'm going to say automatically. That's a sign that doesn't go. I'm going to open the rooms and away you'll go. Okay. So everybody watching the stream, this gallery is pretty much going to disappear except for myself and the encoder. And then I'll show you while they're out in their breakout rooms. I'll show you how I call them back, if you will. All right, so here we go. Now, there may be some others. I'm telling you right now, and probably Dave Node, you said you're kind of behind on versions. There's a very good chance you're not going anywhere, and you may end up in the main room with me. Then that's okay. I'm just predicting that potentially. Here we go.
I have a choice of join or later.
Okay, so you can join. Yeah, so you are on a version that at least supports this.
So then
go
the
ahead.
breakout room button popped up and it says you can join breakout rooms here. And now I have a choice to join the breakout room. So I want to hit join.
Yep, go ahead. All right. So with that, we have our computer that's actually doing the encoding out to the internet that's left behind. We didn't want to make that happen because it would lose video connectivity and so forth. That would kind of mess things up. And then and there's one other computer that's out there that's a non-human sitting in front of it. And then myself. If I wanted to go join or bounce around those rooms, I have a list. I know where everybody is. I have the ability to click on join and I can go jump into them and across to the next and so forth. And then I can come back and so forth. So I am, what I'm going to do is I'm going to broadcast a message. I'll just say, hello, everybody. We're about, oops, I might have bounced on the enter key. So it started the message, and then I'm going to click on close all rooms at this point, and our gallery in the main room will begin to repopulate with all of our panel friends.
Now, what's interesting, as it's repopulating, it doesn't look like it held the order.
That's true. That's true. So it had to, for some reason, it still says follow host order. So we'll see when everybody gets back. Is everybody back now?
No,
I was
looks
wondering
like
if it might, if it might snap to once it was finished, because it does indicate that you're following, but it's definitely different. So I'm going to release that. And then we can just loosen that up.
Something we saw that was interesting is that two of us had the join now or join later option, but
I had that as well.
But one of us did not, and he was on a Mac. So maybe
I read it
wrong.
Experiences may vary, and I'll say that experiences may vary, and that is not a statement that's limited to different versions. That's gonna be limited to where if somebody's joined on a web client, just a browser instead of the downloaded installed client, a mobile client, and then version differences as well, and understanding. I can't afford to keep that much data in my head anymore. There a very good chance there was a version that first released breakout rooms with this set of features, and then there was a following version that maybe added some more features, but maybe in fact actually changed some of the behavior of those original features as well. And so that may be like, Dave, you were able to go, but your kind of pop-up experience versus automation.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Is I have 5.3.1, and it gave me the join or later feature. Nat is on Mac, and he had join. That was it. So we were saying maybe it's a Windows Mac thing that's a little different as well.
Yeah.
So by show of hands, who's all on Mac here right now? Now, just with a thumbs up, did it give you the option to join, or did it also give you the option for later? So
later.
you guys you had later.
I had-
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were just thinking maybe it's a Windows Mac thing because I had a join later option, but Nat didn't.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know. Will
I don't
we ever
mind though.
know?
I'm fine.
Did anyone
I'll
else?
join now.
Did anyone else with multiple monitors experience your breakout restoring to a different monitor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've run that too because I'm running 3 displays around here.
Yeah,
And one
me
of my big headaches is if you screen share, you go into breakout room, it pops the presenter window over, then the main window over, and it closes the chat breakout. And yeah, screen management is one of the things I fight a lot.
And
Well,
I've
I
heard
have
Zoom
3
Rooms.
and it didn't do anything for me. It still brought it up just as the way it was before as well.
I've heard some discussion that Zoom Rooms allows you to pin certain things to certain monitors. I don't know. Maybe that's another question.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually true. Ed started seeing, and I was on a Zoom with Guy Cochran the other day or night actually, and he showed me that I believe because they're on a network with all this equipment that's quite aware of Zoom and features and so forth. Not only were their locally attached monitors, he could also hit TVs that were in the room over the network as well. And so, some of the local capabilities really seem to expand. So it's super interesting and something to look forward to. So. I knew I wasn't going to get very far. I mean, we're at 10 after 7 already. And so I actually, I think I am actually entering into what I would say was kind of my backup potential data. So let me just, I'm not going to speak to it in, an instructor method. I'm going to change gears, as I'm wrapping up kind of the formal, delivery, and let's look at these as other areas, categories. I didn't build this deck all by myself. Vince Donovan, who's on the panel, Ed, Omar. I mean, I had several folks contributing to, agreeing or disagreeing of, what was probably more popular and desirable to see and learn and so forth than not. So, and that's where I've got this, and this was all time related. So because we're short on time on this piece, I'm going to go through this sharing options. That's a long conversation all in itself. Everything that you can share, from your desktops to PowerPoints to your mobile device, your mobile phone, so you can have a mobile camera or even a screen share of your mobile device as well, to being able to tap into your cloud file structures, from the different providers out there, Google and Dropbox and so forth. So there's that. The next one is they have this new feature that people have been talking about, which is called multi-camera. And, I happen to be on a system that, because of what I do, I can have a list of 6-8 cameras, some of which are connected, some are not connected, some were connected, but it hasn't forgotten about them and so forth. And so it's this list of cameras that Zoom will give you as a selection. And so my whole point is the multi-camera feature is like a single button, like when you grab a remote to your television that has 8 different inputs, and you push source, 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 and it's rotating through each input. That's what I have seen and felt in the multi-camera option. So it's really, I think it's quite powerful. I know Vince actually leverages this in what he does because he's does a lot of instruction and training. He has 2 cameras in his computer. And he has one that faces the wall with a whiteboard and gives him the ability to be a standing, walking, writing teacher, and the other one that's on his computer when he sits back down there in front and it's looking at him. And so he can bounce back between one or the other. It's not a side by side at this point. It's just this camera or the other that makes it a bit easier. So virtual backgrounds. I mean, I'll ask the panel, how many of you haven't experienced virtual backgrounds or been annoyed by them just the same? it was one of those. It's probably the most, yeah, if you call it acceptable corporate type, almost playground type thing, but it's really not. Like virtual backgrounds are pretty essential at the end of the day because we're all home, almost everybody's remote and business has to continue. And so virtual backgrounds really kind of save the day because there's dogs and kids and babies and, I've seen people in having to, the quietest room in their house is the bedroom and or a kitchen, and it is noisy, so that's been quite useful, quite honestly. There is a difference. There's a big difference. Dave, are you you're in front of a green screen, right? I see you full screen and you're in front of a green screen. Yeah You're muted, I think. But yeah,
I've got a green screen with some other stuff going on, and so this is my laptop camera, and then I've got a PTZ that's shooting me.
Very good. Yeah, cool. It's one of those things. I mean, yeah, I was even on a WebEx, and I haven't been on a WebEx in a long time, but I was on a WebEx the other day, and they definitely have a really, really effective, like Zooms. You don't need a green screen to have a virtual backdrop. And if you go green screen and light it fairly decently, you're going to have, I look at the Dave's actually on my other monitor, not full screen, but close. And I can see that little green edge in certain areas of his, his head or his ear or whatnot, and so,
I'm using a ATEM 4K to do the key, actually.
Okay.
So I'm pretty
the amount of effort you need to, doesn't need to be studio quality and like unknown, but then when you use really fancy graphics and virtual backgrounds, it's really hard to match your lighting to the lighting in that picture too, and that can be a challenge of its own.
If I may, can I come in there a sec just to demonstrate? Okay, so guys, I don't have a green screen.
Well, and sorry, hold on one sec. Sorry, before it's just so we can make sure that we're seeing this right. Jeff, you're sharing your vMix screen at the moment.
Am I doing desktop? So, thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, so I've been trying to jump around with the audience view, but I'm not host, so I couldn't really do as much as I was hoping. So just want to make sure you are all set for this next part that Vince is going to talk about.
Okay, yep. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, in the UK, I deliver a lot of training. It's all about staff going into people's homes and being confronted with different types of violence and aggression, all sorts. So I actually use my office here as a training room. So as Jeff mentioned, I'll use the whiteboard, I'll use a second camera on there, and I'll walk around. I'll increase the height of my monitor so I walk around, but not using a green screen, providing your process is fast enough, I can create an image here so I can give, when I'm discussing situations, going into somebody's house, which maybe uses a drug den or whatever it is, or if there's issues regarding hoarding, then it's really nice then to bring these overlays, these backgrounds, as long as your processor is fast enough, you don't need any green screen, and then I'm straight back into the classroom environment, so it works really well. So you can do that as long as you've got a good enough processor.
Did you do that with multiple virtual backgrounds or with PowerPoint as your virtual background?
This is just Zoom's backgrounds.
Okay, you're swapping between stills.
Cool.
Yeah, I tend to use OBS a great deal in my presentations. So if I can sort of demonstrate how I use that to be a part of the presentation. So when I talk about sort of managing different levels of aggression, whenever I can actually refer to the slides, I can tick through the slides to discuss and highlight different items, and it works really well. So an awful lot of flexibility going back into this, and then if I wish to, then going back into, I'm just going to bring it back up, so I can go back into different backgrounds.
You're muted there.
Sorry, I'm there. No, it's not No, it's not letting me choose them now. But yeah, it just gives you that versatility to without a green screen. If your process is fast enough, you can use those adaptations within Zoom itself, which is great.
Yeah. Very good. Hey, I appreciate the on-demand demo. So it worked well, and it's something that you really you did it multiple times the very first time we ever connected, and I know you use it every day, and it does really well. And you're not using it just to cover. I mean, you got a nice looking office. You're not using it to cover that up. You're actually using it to teach and instruct, which is not always the case. Ed and I we were reflecting back. I don't think I can still remember the meeting that we were on, but there was this guy. Oh yeah, it was the we did determine that it was the first Zoom test kitchen.
Yep. Yeah, first Zoom test kitchen. Yeah.
And this gal joined the Zoom test kitchen, and the first one was actually really well attended, like 24 people, and behind her was a room of stuff, bookshelves, just normal room. But on, like, I don't know if it was the end of a shelf or something, but she taped up a picture of the infamous Zoom Beach Island picture. And there was something she said that motivated her to do that, but something technically went wrong one day. And so she decided, hey, I'm going to print this out and enlarge it and tape it up behind me. So if technically that ever goes wrong again, I'll still kind of have it.
Yeah. She had, so she had this as a enlarged photo on like an easel behind her to be her not so virtual background. But yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, no question. Let's see. Let's cut back over and keep trying. Now, guys, whoever's watching the chat, if there's questions, please interrupt me. I'm walking through these because I'm not being interrupted for the most part. So
got it. So
okay, we got tons.
We have tons of questions. So
okay.
Here, let me just go over this one real fast. Just so you guys know, Leland Best just gave out a code for everybody right now. If you want 30% off of your Zoom accounts, type in Connect 30. That's going on for a couple more weeks. But if you guys want to pay for Zoom and you haven't done it already to get better quality of stuff, type in Connect 30 and it'll give you 30% off for the first year. So that's
awesome.
Leland Best. And then I have another one. I'm not really sure if this is really a question, but I know we answered one of them. But anyway, Mike Great, I'm horrible at names. Mike Graves says, I bring a talent in by vMix call and then stream to Zoom. I normally have a client as a co-host in Zoom who manages the in-meeting comments with the audience and who monitors the programming audio and video. We make sure my program out the vMix is spotlighted in Zoom or his camera so that the audience is only seeing the live program feed. Then the client copies and pastes comments from the audience into a Google Sheets, and I pull those in via vMix data sources and connect to a social commenting template. So that was, I'm not sure if that's a question here.
Yeah, it sounded like a description of implementation.
Right,
yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I go, hey, success, which is great because we're all coming up with, either similar or our own creative ways, really due to, quite honestly, this great tool called Zoom, its shortcomings. And it definitely for producers has some significant shortcomings, primarily the three big letters of NDI, which gives us the ability to grab video of each individual participant in the meeting, and I can actually have that, use it, and put it into our video switchers to then produce the show. And so literally we have to like creatively lay out multiple laptops and external monitors and do screen grabs of those people and create our own cameras of those individuals until they finally release that. So yeah, lots of creative work going on out there for sure. Thanks for sharing.
So here's one from Randy Reggies, and I'm jumping around here when these comments. I'm trying to go through this quick as I can. Does Zoom Room support NDI?
I'm not gonna come down and say a hard no, only because I can't factually say that, but I'll say why I say I don't think so. I haven't heard of a single version or Zoom product that supports NDI, and I often am sometimes on the panel, but often in the audience, if you will, for office hours every morning with some stellar folks who are using a lot of different stuff. Guy Cochran is there every day, and he is a Zoom Room owner, multiple at that, and he's never mentioned anything about. I'm not saying his omission means
it's
no.
actually very easy to get NDI into it. All you have to do is use NDI tools, and that's what we do in the cloud.
You're saying ingest?
Ingest and out. Or you scan converter on the outside, then ingest with NDI. Yeah, NDI virtual input for ingest.
There you go. That's why we have a panel.
When it goes out, Jeff, does it go out a gallery? Does it have to be full
It's whatever
screen?
you have. That's why we use multiple machines. So I was describing at the beginning of this, we were just chit-chatting, 24 different machines to get 24 guests. And we did that all in the cloud, and it's a pain in the butt right now. But because of the way Zoom doesn't send everybody down, that's what a lot of people don't understand. Everybody's stream is not an individual stream coming down. The gallery is created on the server, so you have that look on the server, and that's coming down as one stream. But everybody else inside that is a smaller amount of data, right? So whenever you go to wanting to do everybody individually, as everybody's saying, right, I want to have, say, a Zoom room or a Zoom meeting with 20 people, and I want 20 individual streams, that means you have to have the bandwidth to support 20 people individually. And that's where Zoom does not have that capability. Skype does. Skype and Teams both have that capability, but it does accelerate how much bandwidth you have to have come down.
How do you manage the little overlay bugs and things on the Zoom raster if you're doing NDI? Like the little icons at the top corner, or because I know you can go full screen to extend.
Just tighten up. Use scan with Scan Converter, you get the whole thing, but it's say a 1920 by 1080 by default. But then whenever you want to knock out, like I would knock out my name and all the other junk that's on there, you full screen it first, but then I would go in and just zoom in. So their cameras, you set them up looser, so they're not exactly a perfect shot, and then you go in and crop in, and we use our tools in the cloud to do that.
That's right. Yeah, I love the detail and the real world experience shared, Jeff. Because sometimes I'm guilty myself in, we just go, can't wait for NDI, and we'll all be the first ones to scream and shout angrily if it doesn't come out the way we're thinking it should come out. But yet we're not the input mechanism, right? I mean, like if they released NDI and I had a meeting of 200 people and their release was to feed out 200 NDI sources, they would cavitate the world, right? I mean, they would just flatten every network that were to happen. It's not what they're going to do. They're wiser than that, but it's not, there's a lot more involved than just turning it on. You have to select the who, you have to administratively give them the rights to, enable NDI and so forth. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes and when. I mean, I'll tell you, they're keeping a great secret right now. I don't know if you have any indications, Jeff, but I don't have any indication of time. I don't hear anything.
I haven't heard anything. A friend of mine's son's a CTO, so they won't give it up. They say soon, but
Yeah, competitively, they've got to be getting some pressure now. That's the one thing that we can rest assured of. If
So a couple more.
Omar,
So
yeah,
we
go
have a
ahead.
couple.
Hold on, Chris. I want to interrupt.
Yeah.
So the chat in Facebook has blown up about NDI, and the timing of that couldn't be better because next week, Jeff Keith, pronounce your last name for me, Jeff.
Keithley.
Keithley. Okay.
No I, no A, just Keithley.
Keithley, great. So Jeff Keithley next week is going to be talking about NDI. So he just gave you a little preview. That was the taste test for what you're going to see next week when you come back to AV Tech Talks next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, US. So let's not give away all the sauce tonight, guys. But know that the chat, there's a lot of talk about how to do various things with NDI, with desktop capture, and things like that. So Leland's talking about it. We've got Mike Graham talking about it. So make sure you guys come back next week, tune in the same time, where Jeff's going to walk us through NDI. So I think we lined these chats up pretty good timing wise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And then Chris, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, I got a couple questions that I'm going to ask that came from Facebook, but I also want to let you guys know we have about 30 minutes left. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and get them in so we can get them answered and everything like that. Because again, we can't ask the question if you don't ask us the question. So one question I'm going to answer, because I kind of already answered it already in chat, but I'll let everybody else kind of fill in if they have a better thing. But it says, for production, what type of capture cards do you recommend to take in multiple PCs on extended desktop? Blackmagic web presenters are limited to 720p, and his Elgato Cam Link won't take in audio over HDMI. Well, we kind of did that already. Nate and I already kind of went through chat. You can get audio over HDMI with a Cam Link. It sounds like this person's might be defective, or he needs to check the settings, because you can get audio over HDMI with a Cam Link. But Cam Links are generally used for cameras most of the time. That's just, personally, I know there's other uses that can be for it, but if you're looking for a 1080p capture card, there are a few options out there. You do have the Elgato HD60 Pro, which is a 1080p. They also have the Elgato HD 60 Plus now, which is 4K. And then you also have the HD60S, which is USB source one. You also have AverMedia. AverMedia is a great company. I know a lot of Elgato stuff is out right now, but AverMedia is a great product as well for capture cards. They do have they call it the Live Gamer Portable 2, which is a USB based 1080p capture card. They have the Live Gamer Portable 2 HD, which is a 4K, and then they also have the Live Gamer HD, which is a PCI boarded one. So any other cards you guys recommend for any production base that you guys use?
I'm using the Aja UTAP,
which is a great one as well.
Embedded SDI, and I've used the Magewell.
The Magewell one is a newer one. Anybody that's using that one, this is me personally, I've played with it. Anybody that's using that one, you just have to make sure your softwares are up to date on it and your drivers are up to date. If you are lagged on your driver, it will drop everything that it's trying to connect to it. It is a pain in the let me tell you. Yeah, we won't even go into that. That's a whole nother 5-hour segment that I could rant on that one. But
so I just want to let you know that my phone is getting blown up asking what kind of camera Jeff is using. I've had a handful of owners of companies I work for who are asking me what camera you're using, Jeff. Is that the Brio?
No. So
oh no, that's right. You have something else.
I'll say I when I got this and I didn't buy it for what I'm using it for. I love photography as well, but I've gotten I just say it's not just about the resolution. And my point is I received a lot of great compliments on, hey, what camera are you using? Even when I know I was throwing out 360p, and it just gets better from there. The camera that I've got in front of me, it's a Canon EOS R with a 24 to 70. It's on barely 3 feet in front of me. It's a 24 to 70 L series lens. And then I have a lot of light set up here too. So, a lot of light, good camera, good lens, makes a pretty incredible difference for sure. Who else has got questions?
There is another one that came from Dean Robinson. I think we kind of answered it in a sense because you kind of showed it. Was Jeff using a certain software to share his camera and presentation to Zoom? Just something I noticed real quick, that he wasn't screen sharing as such to show his presentation. So you are currently using vMix, and that's what you were using to do the production, right?
Yeah, that's right. I actually, through the couple of times that Ed and Omar and I got together, I actually did do almost all screen sharing and so forth. But the window management in Zoom's just a pain in the rear. I mean, I still am not, I won't call myself, really comfortable with it. I'm somewhat comfortable with it, but I have two monitors, and then I have a Mac next to me and another PC next to me. And so I decided to just late this afternoon drop the PowerPoint deck into vMix and run it from there. And so when you have vMix load that, then you can go into what's called the settings of that slide deck, and it pops out just its own little window of all the thumbnails. So I see every thumbnail on the bottom of my second monitor right now, or I can click on next or previous and so forth. So yeah, thanks for asking. It just became kind of a center point of management for the most part, with the exception of a couple of those demos. And so it did in fact kind of simplify things for me, thank goodness.
And then real quick, I'm going to grab a question that I just seen come in. It disappeared really quick. So I don't know if he's rewriting it or what, but he's asking, when it came in, I saw it, and it was about what's causing the desync and stream video and audio, I think is what his question was. And that has to do with multiple factors. And we've covered this in a couple AV Tech Talks before, where when you're streaming, it's all about your bit rate that you're putting out, your audio that you're bringing in, and how it's being ingested and how you're putting it out as well. So I'm sure a couple of you guys can elaborate on that have used shows that have had to go in and actually set the sync levels on some of your productions, because that's just how it works. Your ingesting and your output is completely based on your traffic that you have coming in and out. So
yeah, I know, my video, from that camera through a capture card into my PC, into vMix and out, definitely travels slower than my microphone to the soundboard into the PC. And so I think I've got an adjustment of about 275 milliseconds that I'm slowing the audio down to get in sync with the video. So hopefully it's working, but yeah, always happens for sure. Almost always.
Yeah. Also, just so we know, I am pushing the stream, and some family just turned on Netflix, so that could be affecting some of my bandwidth issues. Just as a warning, I asked them now to hold off on the Netflix for a few minutes.
Yeah, you don't want me to share my desktop. If I share my desktop and do a speed test, I always grow more enemies than friends, because it's commonly about 940 megabits up and down, and it's Google Fiber at that. But
yeah,
it's just
screw you and your fiber.
It was crazy impressive to see. I will say that
it is.
I have about 970 down and 45 up. I'd kill to have fiber optic where I live right now.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. It's been the best I've ever had. Not just speed. They've been solid as a rock, helpful if I've needed them, like twice in 3 years. But yeah, it's been really great. Anything else?
Oh yeah, there's still plenty.
Okay.
So it says somebody's asking, Zoom needs a green screen for my computer. Is there a way to select a color key to such as blue or beige? So if I'll take this for a second, if little known fact, if you check the I have a green screen button, there'll be a color picker that shows up in that virtual background. If you're on Mac, it usually shows up actually on the picture. It's just a little box. On PC, I've experienced it where it shows up at the bottom of the window. And then you can pick, if you have a flat wall behind you, you can pick on that what you want it to key out. So you don't have to have necessarily a green screen. I think, Nat, you're here. Originally, you were using a white background that you were then using to key out. And I think, if I remember, sometimes They can't see you at the moment, but if I hold on, now they can see you. So Nat, you can show that again. He's got a green behind or a white behind his gray.
My wife used a white one for her office meeting, and I use a green screen for these.
Right, but now like things like your Apple earpods and like your white undershirts would key out as well. So be mindful.
Yeah, I was doing white at the beginning, but it had a very unnerving effect for my coworkers.
Right. But that option is there. If you don't have a green screen, you can kind of fake it to Zoom with a different flat background. We got well done. I
didn't realize how many shirts I had with green in them until I started sitting on all these calls with green screens.
There we go.
It's like an old.
That was
Apple
the major
commercial.
reason. That was the major reason I took it out of. I used to use a green screen for streaming, and I took it out because, as you can see by the shirt that I'm wearing, I have a lot of green, and all my logos and everything that I use is green. It's one of my favorite colors. So like my hat, I couldn't wear my hat because it would bleed. If I zoomed in really close to the camera, my eyes are actually a bright green, so it would actually key chrome my eyes out. So it was really weird. So I quit using a green screen.
Well, and green was only selected originally because it was probably the smallest chance, right? But they make blue screen, they make green screens and whites and blacks, and you can Luma key it out. I mean, there's so many choices, and Zoom and WebEx and others have proven, hey, we don't even need you to go buy one. It's not perfect, but it's pretty doggone good, and so it just keeps getting better. Keep reading them off, or I'll move a slide or two and we can read some more.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of questions. I definitely, and a lot of them came in early, so I want to maybe, I think we're probably this is probably going to take us till the end at looking at what time it is, because we do need to wrap, because as we put in the chat, the Zoom test kitchen will be opening immediately after. So all the things that we've just run through, you can feel free to come into the Zoom test kitchen and test yourself, or see how it works on the back end. Or if you have something else that's troubling you with Zoom that's giving you a problem, you can test it there as well. So we don't want to.
Ed, let me give me 2 slides.
Sure.
Super quick.
Go ahead.
Then I'm completely done, and let's just roll to the end with these questions. Then one. If you am I big screened out there? If you want to make your life better, easier, smoother, one of the big challenges is we may say, hey, Zoom's the perfect tool for us, or does us a really good job. But the other challenge is a lot of us have become self-producers, right? I mean, especially, these teachers and whoever you are have been asked to do or become and created yourself. We're also self-producers, and that's challenging. I mean, you've seen my eyes go sideways on these 2, monitors and the tools and management. And so that is a picture of the very Stream Deck that I have in front of me, and it's got 32 buttons on it, plus up to 99 pages of those electronic buttons as well. And so it's just endless possibilities, but you can build them, drop them wherever you want. It's just so easy. The keyboard shortcuts in Zoom, you just drag a button, say, hey, the shortcut is, look at the keyboard shortcuts, Alt S, whatever the shortcut may be, and you instantly have button access. Mute, unmute, mute all, unmute all, share, unshare, all that. You can even pause the share instead of stop it. So I just say that tool itself is a great investment. That's the big one. There's 2 others on the smaller side. I think a 15 and a 6. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right.
And so the last thing I want to do, and then we'll do all the questions, is this is probably out of all the different topics and interests of people that I query, where do you want to go? What do you want to learn? How do you want to enhance yourself and so forth? This is it. Is they want to learn what it takes to deliver a professionally produced Zoom production, and why don't you just do a production? Well, there's a lot of things about Zoom that do in fact make our lives a lot easier. The registration system, you know, the security that's built in, the every single client that lets about any device join, we don't have to mess with that, right? And so there are some really real good benefits, but if you really want to step it up, and you know, I think a lot of us are really kind of burnt out on being in a Zoom meeting, and as far as the look and the feel, if you want to, you do that. The two big pieces, and I'm not here, you know, just advocating vMix. vMix could be OBS, could be Wirecast, could be live. So it can be a number. StreamYard. I mean, there's a bunch, but it's a combination of, you know, either a hardware switcher, software switcher, and Zoom, so that you can kind of pluck out the pieces you want from Zoom, and then graphically dress up and polish the actual deliverable. And so the receiver, you know, the person watching, the viewer, gets this I'll call it a splendid experience, and but yet you've leveraged kind of, you know, all the best tools with Zoom behind the scenes, and made the very best of it as far as you're in production. And I'm talking Jeff Keithley's world, you know, that he's been doing, I've been watching, and so forth. And Jeff, just a word of warning to you, I'm chasing you down to get to know you, man. You're going to be my friend. And because there's just so much to learn. And I'll just tell everybody, you know, I learned Jason on my screen is right next to Jeff. And you know, Jason talked last week, and he, you know, I walked away, you know, it wasn't new for me, but it was a nice reminder. And that is, you know, anybody who's in that position of gosh, I don't know, or I don't have the confidence yet. I mean, I just say, if you think you're going to create perfection sitting in your office till you feel like you're ready to get out, that ain't going to happen. You know, I mean, Jason clearly explained that you know, you say yes because you know how to get it done, not because you personally know how to make it happen yourself, right? And it's who you know, and so forth. So, you know, it's that confidence that makes it happen. So I do want to, you know, well, I just want to show, and this is my last piece, the graphic, is if you combine these two efforts with some creativity and so forth, I'm going to, which one should I pick on, Greg? Real Picture Live 2? You're muted. You're still
not hearing you,
but I still
Greg.
couldn't hear you.
Yeah, we don't hear you, Greg. I could see you talking, but
There we go. So, did you take host? Yeah, if you'll spotlight that, Ed.
ooh, we got the pink and the greens again.
If you'll reset, Greg, yeah, if you'll reset your camera, that'll fix that.
Yeah.
I ran into that with Ed the other night.
So hold on, let me just get that so we can see what's happening. Up now, Greg's back. It looks like. There we go.
Yeah, sorry, my microphone came unplugged. That's an NDI thing, and sometimes with the NDI you get those the weird Hulk screen.
Yeah. So Greg, he was kind. I said, hey, if I build the graphic, will you join the meeting and pull, you know, a couple screen scrapes together and show that? And you know, I could have done a screenshot, but I. You know, can you bring that back up, Greg? You know, I think, I hope it's more meaningful to know that right inside the same production, the same session that we're in right now, we absolutely transformed the actual viewer experience, right? And it's still Zoom, right? And so look at him go. He's got more captures than I asked for. But anyways, brand it. You can pop up lower thirds to introduce the names of the people and so forth. So that's all I've got to say about that. But I'll say, if you want to get introduced, there's so many people providing education and knowledge. I mean, I in the Zoom test kitchen, this is definitely one of the topics. The Stream Deck, the breakout rooms. We have a number of things here, and if tonight you've been inspired, you've got kind of some brain energy going on particular categories, questions, and wish I could get my hands on that like right now, come to the Zoom kitchen here in a little bit, and we'll do just that. And so, all right, questions from here to the end. Thanks, Ed.
No problem. That looks great. Maybe Greg, before we jump off, because we're still looking at your screen on Facebook, can you explain to us what you're doing there? You're muted, just so you know.
All right. How about now?
There you go.
There we go.
Awesome. Yay. All right. So I'm just running NDI tools on the machine with vMix. And so I'm just, I have this screen with Bodie up. I have him up full screen. I have him pinned, and then I have another machine. I have a laptop that I'm running over here, and I'm doing the same thing. So I'm running, I'm actually running vMix remote desktop capture on that machine. And so I'm just pulling those two screens in as NDI sources into vMix. And then Jeff made this Zoom test kitchen template. And basically I'm just using multi-view overlays in vMix.
Right.
To do the dual screen.
Yeah. So the layers are, there's two camera inputs. They're behind. I built it to be behind. I know Greg often lays them on front, but it's kind of six.
No, they're behind. They're behind.
They are.
Yeah.
So I gave him the graphic, and the last thing I did was I cut out holes, two 16:9 holes where the videos are, so that he could just lay some rough video behind them, and then put the graphic in front of them. And you just naturally end up with nice clean edges and the whole bit. And so,
right, it's essentially a mat. You're just putting a mat over two sources that you captured. Yep. I was more curious on the Zoom workflow. So you're using two different machines that have a full screen image of whoever you wanted to spotlight, and that's how using that kind of workflow, you can just change your spotlighting or your pinning to essentially change who's in the pin.
Right. So I can go into, I can go back into the gallery here, and I can pick Jeff, and I can replace my pin, and now Jeff's in that spot.
Right.
Or I can go back to the other machine over here and do the same thing.
And if you're running dual monitor, you don't even need to do that popping back into gallery. You can do that seamlessly.
Exactly, because I could have the gallery. I don't have it on the laptop over here, but I am running dual screen here. So I've got the gallery is on a screen to my right, and I've got the full screen speaker view right in front of me here. And so I can go into my gallery view on the right here, and it automatically changes that on the second screen every time I change the pin.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to use Zoom, especially if you end up with a business account that'll get you a higher resolution, where you can use Zoom to at least ingest your presenters, because for many of your presenters, Zoom might be what they're familiar with now after the last 6-7 months of doing virtual conferences for their office, where they're not worried about production value, but now all of a sudden they're part of a bigger conference that is upping the value on production. So you don't have to make them try to learn how to dial into a vMix call or use Skype, which is typically better quality than some others. So it just gives you more options once you get to those business accounts that offer the higher resolutions.
Yeah. And if anybody caught really quickly Greg's description, just a quick note, I just say pinning is local. It's your screen only. And spotlighting is a push. And so if you spotlight, you're telling people what they're going to see. If you pin it. So a lot of people pin, maybe, but that's just like personal preference as a viewer. Producers use pinning for the screen grabs, right? I mean, we set it up so we can grab it and then use it. So very different uses, but a useful feature in the meantime while we wait for NDI. So
well, and one other thing too that I would add, and Jeff Keithley talked about this earlier. I mean, these images are scaled a little bit too, because in my full screen view, I do have a little bit of graphics on the screen from Zoom. And like, for example, when I'm typically doing a Zoom repackage, I'm not recording locally to Zoom. I'm recording on my machines here. But for example, in the screen that I have of Ed, I've got the recording. I see the recording graphic up in the top left, and I've got that screen scaled up enough so that I can crop that out of the frame.
How do you guys handle chat on some of these? Because I've noticed when I've done it in the past, someone sends a chat and then a little window pops up right under their chin.
You just put it on a different screen.
So you just open it up and move it out of the way.
Yeah, and just move it to one of the screens you're not capturing.
Yep.
Otherwise, that's exactly what will happen. You'll get even if you don't have the chat window open, you'll get the little notification boxes down at the bottom.
So you have to have a dual screen setup for each one of these pins?
You don't have to have, I mean, you do have to have a dual screen setup of some kind if you don't want to have, I mean, you can move the chat box down to the bottom of the screen and then scale it so that you don't see it. Another thing that works really well, and this is something that I got off of from the office hours crew, but you can get these little HDMI dummy heads that you can plug into the back of your graphics card, and it fools your computer into thinking that you've got another HDMI screen attached to it. And so in your display preferences, you can see that you actually have two screens, and you can actually drop stuff off onto the dummy screen. It's just sort of like dragging things off that you can't actually see it, but you can drag those things off the screen. But the cool thing is that with those dummy heads, you can also, your computer will also see those as NDI sources. And so anything that you could do dual screen and still be able to use that dummy HDMI screen as an NDI source in your software like vMix.
Wow.
Very cool. Yeah, there's associated risks, right? Just like you brought up, Dave, kind of a known risk of pop-up messages and so forth, and you know, same kind of associated risk with if you're going to screen grab a video screen of somebody from a gallery, you know, the risk is those, you know, somebody drops, somebody jumps in to the meeting, that gallery reshuffles, and so you lose your intended screenshot. So, you know, you just have to be careful how you implement and how riskless it is with everything else that goes on that device. Yeah.
Is there, I noticed when Ed was in the 2-pip vMix production, his lip sync was off more than it was when he is now. Do you add delay going into vMix when you're doing stuff like this, or?
Well, you'd want to, I mean, yeah, if you had a chance to get things synced up, you know, at the beginning of the show and get things tested and rehearsed and so forth, you would do it in your mixing software, you know, vMix in this case, get that synced up. But you have to be really consistent. You know, there's better experts than I on that, but you know, single external source of audio versus, you know, your video feeds and so forth, you know, versus I've seen, you know, some folks who, you know, when they switch cameras, they switch audio. And so it's just like, nah, you gotta have real consistency to be able to set a sync, and it works for, you know, virtually everything that you're sending through the system. So a little bit of a chore.
Yeah, typically I would add about, I don't know, 240 to 270 milliseconds audio delay, just sync it up a little bit better if I was doing this.
Ed, can you clap?
Sure.
Spot. I can't see.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me. What are we looking at now? So right now we see the gallery.
Where you're full screen and see how tiny it is, and then
let me pin myself. There we go. All right.
That's pretty tight.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, you're not too bad.
Now you're looking at the spotlight from Zoom. Do you want to see it in Greg's window?
Yeah. Just to see the comparison.
So that's what the audience was just seeing. So stand by. So now the audience is seeing, or will be momentarily when I actually take it. I have too many computers and too many mouses. Sorry, let me just pin him. Why are you not being? You gotta love when everything is.
It's Greg's screen.
Yep, there we go. Okay, so 3, 2, 1.
Ah.
3, 2,
Yeah.
1. And I can't see and hear it because that would drive me nuts if I heard myself on a delay. But you guys will have to tell me how that looks. On
I would
Facebook, let us
probably-
know. Did that lip sync look right or did it look bad?
Well, on Zoom, I would be typing in like maybe 750 millisecond delay on audio just as a first go. I'm not
Wow.
I'm not so good that I know where that is. But Jeff's going, what? How much did you see, Jeff? Because I saw what I thought was near 3/4 of a second delay.
It felt like your hands hadn't started moving yet when we heard the clap.
Got it. Well, I mean, and that's expected because you're hearing my audio direct from my machine where we're seeing my video after it's been across the public internet to Greg, and then he scraped it NDI and put it in there. So there's a lot of, I mean, Zoom itself just adds some latency, but then the NDI latency and everything on top of that makes sense. Now, if we were hearing...
See, when I look at it on my screen here,
Yep.
it looks like it's in sync. Now I did just put about 270 milliseconds of delay on my side.
But that won't
But
matter.
when I'm looking at
because-
you here, it looks like it's in sync to me.
Interesting. Well,
'Cause he's
we're not
seen it
hearing
before we are.
me back into Zoom from your system. So that's audio wise. We're hearing me and the audience is hearing me through my input to Zoom. That's why I'm spotlighted at the moment.
The other thing that
You hear
Leela
it
just
doubling.
pointed out, that's a great point to point out, is the fact that we're watching it go through another monitor. So you got Zoom's input, then you have another monitor's input going through his vMix. There's a lot of input lag that could possibly be going on at this point if we're watching it from Greg's point of view.
Right. Yeah. So that's tough. I mean, the way ideally on a show, we wouldn't be having the show using the same platform, like you wouldn't be ingesting where you're also streaming out to. So that's the whole difference. You would be taking a caller in and then you're sending it out someplace else through a different channel. Now, even just looking at the gallery, I can see my lips are way off compared when I'm looking at my two thumbnails. So, which I don't think, let's see. So, they've been seeing, I don't know why they've been seeing that. Sorry. So they're seeing that right now on Facebook. There should be two galleries. Although it doesn't, I'm on the same, it's a different gallery view, but yes, there's two of me on the same row and it's, oh yeah, that's so funny how off that is. So yeah, that's interesting stuff though. It just tells you what you can do. I'm looking at the time and it is 9:00 Eastern time. I know that we have people from other parts of the world today. I was talking to someone who unfortunately couldn't join us from South Africa because it was going to be 6 hours later in the middle of the night. But they assured me they'd watch the replay. So I hope they did, because this seems like we had a lot of people very interested, and we're getting a lot of good feedback in the comments. So if you have any last minute comments for Jeff and anything that we kind of missed, we'll try to come back to the comments later in the week to answer some of those questions, because there were a lot that did not get answered. Jeff, is there, and the panel, I actually apologize because we kind of didn't open it up to the panel. So maybe we can take a couple panel questions so that everybody gets a chance to speak for a moment. Is there anything, maybe Jason, I know you usually have some awesome questions that come up, or are you using Zoom in any cool, interesting fashion?
I'll be honest. I was on with Jeff this week, and a lot of the questions that I had, he answered for me. And then tonight, they dove in, between him and Greg, they dove into quite a few of the things that I was interested in. My biggest weakness is the NDI, and we're going to be talking about that next week. So, as far as my questions go, I've pretty much been wrapped up.
Awesome. So you went offline and got the questions you needed. You just said, I'm not going to wait for AV Tech Talks. I'm just going to go direct to the source ahead of time.
Well, luckily I found the Zoom test kitchen via AV Educate. So actually, thank you guys, as always.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Collaborating has its benefits for sure.
Yeah. Great. Nina, this was your first time on the panel. Do you have anything? Are you using Zoom at all?
I am using Zoom, but for various seminars, so it's a lot of the person talking and then me listening sort of thing. The thing I'm interested in is breakout rooms where I'm fairly new to this. I just graduated, and for our portfolio, we were using breakout rooms to try and do portfolio, and it was earlier in the year and done very quickly. And I think they did their best, all things considered, but sort of thinking about like if there's a way or a functionality for breakout rooms to be pre-assigned, and then you can set up even within the meeting, like maybe 3 different versions of breakout rooms and then just have that switch out. Because I think that's something maybe a Zoom exec future thing.
I actually have an answer for that. Is you can go in with a spreadsheet with a Excel document, and you can basically put everybody out one time as an import of that spreadsheet, and then after that you have to manually assign them.
Jeff just stole my thunder. I will add though for the viewers that are watching, if you guys go this route, that spreadsheet is very specific. So you put in that email wrong or any information wrong, it does not work. It is we did a show like that as well, and it was like somebody used an email that they didn't really own or something, so they didn't get it correctly, and it was us going back like, oh man, like where is this person on my list, and changing it out for the correct information. And Jeff Shagan said like, yep, I've had the same experience. So yeah, if you guys are doing that route, you might want to make sure that all the content, I'm getting multiple nods of yes in the panels, make sure whatever's in that Excel sheet is 100% correct, because if it's not working.
Well, the other big issue that people that I've seen in my experience is someone will register for the event with one email address, but they have multiple Zoom accounts, and then they'll log into the Zoom account on a different email address, and then it doesn't put them anywhere because they came in. So that's your user error on the participant side, and there's almost nothing you can do to herd those cats once they've gotten gotten control of the barn. So,
and it still becomes the Zoom operator's fault.
Right. Exactly.
Always your fault.
Great. So real quick before we head out, I again want to thank DVE Store for their support. This was a great test tonight to see the quality. A few people commented that it looked great. And then Guy from DVE Store was texting with me and giving me a few more ideas for getting up to 1080 on Facebook. So, maybe that'll be coming in the future weeks forward. The other thing, it looks like, Jeff, it looks like you've got something on your screen. You want to just tell us what that is? I have that spotlighted at the moment.
Yeah. So, just a circling back on the invitation and reminder. I know it's we've been going at it for a couple hours already, but like I said, if you've got something on your mind, or Nina, you want to go practice some breakout rooms or whatnot, I have, it's my pro account, and I can make you a host, and you can drive, or we can drive. It's really flexible, but it really just gives that platform and environment, usually of multiple folks at the same time, that keeps it realistic as well. So I'm just putting it up there at the end of this meeting. The meeting numbers, password is right there. Give me 5 minutes after we go offline, and I'll have that Zoom meeting up and ready for you. So if you're going to join us, I'd love to have you.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And with that, we're back on the gallery view. So if everybody, we're going to call it a night. Thank you very much out in Facebook land. Next week, join us for the NDI talk. We didn't make the announcement, Omar. We're going to try something different next week using Zoom webinar. We were going to do it this week, but then we realized none of the functions would work that we were going to demonstrate. So, so we're going to do a Zoom webinar next week. And what we'll do is we'll still go live on Facebook, and we will put the Zoom webinar link to register in the event page, which, Omar, if you can get that link and put it up in the Facebook chat to next week's event page so that everybody tuned in knows where to find it. You can find it from the AV Educate page. Omar's going to drop that link before we sign off. And and then we'll have a registration page. So you can register to be an attendee and see it from the attendee side, or you can watch it on Facebook, whichever your choice is. And that'll give you some options. But we like the idea of going to a webinar format. It gives us a different control of things, and it lets us engage a little bit better, less distractions. So we're gonna give it a try next week, and if we like it, then we'll do it. We'll stick with it. I want to take a moment, thank Jeff. I want to thank Vince, and I want to thank Greg for all the input you guys did on this presentation. And as always, I want to thank the panel. Thank you guys. We had some new faces, which was great. And thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bodie. If anybody has any last words, otherwise we can call it a night and say goodbye to Facebook.
All right. Good night. Thanks so much.
Don't forget to check out. We have our Omar has his Wednesday night podcast here on AV Educate as well. So don't forget about that.
Yes. You want to let us know, Omar, what's happening this week before we bounce?
Yeah. So next week we're going to be having an open discussion between some verbiage about an article I just posted on the group side between males and females and what to do and not to do. I want to open up a discussion so both sides can talk, and there's a more clear decision between what a male might be thinking versus a female might be thinking. The article is very one-sided, I felt, and I want to kind of open that discussion to open up a dialogue between both sides to have a healthy understanding. We also referenced another one we called mansplaining on a previous talk we did with Becky Campbell and Susan Williams from the Sound Girls Orlando team, where we had a similar conversation. And I myself, as an educator, wasn't aware what the word meant and was enlightened by what it meant. And I spoke about my opinion of it. They spoke about their opinion. It was a very good conversation. I hope to continue that in this one as well. Not to do a debate, which I used incorrectly, but to open a conversation and a healthy dialogue between both parties to say, hey, well, I've always assumed this because X, Y, Z, or well, I always assume this because X, Y, Z, and kind of move that conversation forward to educate the community on how to best work together in the future moving forward so that we are more aware of our surroundings and our situations and we're not doing things out of ignorance more than anything else. That's what our next one on Wednesday will be talking about. And that post will be up momentarily as well for you guys.
That'll be a good one because just like you said, you're trying to educate the community, not that they're doing anything wrong, that you're not doing it out of ignorance is the key right there. So that's definitely going to be an interesting one to watch.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say I'm going to turn on some jazz if we're coming to an end.
Don't get us dinged on Facebook. We already had that with some 1K.
No, this is YouTube copyright. This is copyright free music from YouTube. So
YouTube to Facebook is completely different. I've had my stream shut down twice for things that were YouTube appropriate, not Facebook appropriate.
I'll just turn on my I'll turn on my 1K tone then, Ed.
All right. Let's kill it,
guys. All right, guys.
Kill it.
Have a great night. Have a great night, and we'll see you next Sunday.